Look who's coming up.
All right, Tom Gazzola is joining us now. He is of TSN 1260, TSN, and of course NHL.com. And man, it's a big one tonight, Tom. We got the Oilers and the Canucks, and I wonder if this is a Canucks team that you see being able to unseat somebody and make the playoffs. Bruce Boudreau took them very close last year. Do you see this Canucks team being able to unseat somebody in the Pacific? First of all, do you think there'll be more than 3 teams in the playoffs for the Pacific, and do you think the Canucks can be one of them?
Dino, first of all, welcome to my bedroom. The Jason Gregor show is happening in my living room. So Jason Strudwick rolled in, and I've been relegated to my own room. So I apologize.
Struddy kicked you out? Like, why isn't Struddy in the bedroom?
Well, Struddy and Gregor's already doing his show. He's an hour in, and Struddy just got here.
They're
so
both
I was like,
there.
They're both there. So I'm just like, I stuck it to my own room, and I'm here doing the show. So I wouldn't miss it for the world, and here we are. So anyway, to get to your question, I think the Canucks are in tough, to be honest with you, in this Pacific Division, because I don't think they're getting past Edmonton. I don't think they're getting past Calgary. I think that the LA Kings are going to have another solid year. I think that might be an upstart team in the Pacific. And then the Vegas Golden Knights, if they get some goaltending, they could be in the mix as well. And Vancouver, they do have some really nice pieces. They truly do. If Elias Pettersson is having a great season, if Brock Besser with his hand injury and the surgery he had, if he heals up and he's good to go, he's going to be good to go tonight against the Oilers. If he has a good season and Horvat is solid as he usually is, and JT Miller can be a 100-point guy or somewhere around there again, that might put them close, especially if they're getting the goaltending from Demko, but they're going to have to clean up their penalty kill, which was almost historically bad last season, finished 29th, and then they're going to need a lot of power plays, which was really good in the top 10 for them last year. They're the type of team that's going to have to muck and grind games to win, and I think they might get into some trouble because of their back end, especially if you're missing guys like Tyler Myers, who isn't going to play tonight. I think this is a team that, probably is excited about the season, and there's hype around Bruce Boudreau and a lot of elements to like, but I don't know. I look at the roster and I go, this might be a team that is closer to being on the cusp of making the postseason, but not quite getting there. And I still think LA is a better team, Edmonton, Calgary, and maybe even the Vegas Golden Knights.
So the Canucks would probably be the cutoff point of a team like Anaheim, San Jose. I think all those teams are just rebuilding, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And obviously Arizona be bad for Bedard. So do you think, I think this is the Central Division's 5. I don't know if it'll be the same 5 in the past, but I think something really bad has to happen in the Central for them not to get 5 in. I think it's the toughest, hardest division, and I think the Cup's going to go through there again this year.
It very well could. I mean, Minnesota looks like they've regrouped just nicely. I know that there was some cap issues that Bill Guerin and his crew needed to deal with, and I think they got through it okay. The Blues, there's no reason to believe that they're not going to be half decent again, and the Avs are the Avs, obviously, and Nashville and Dallas seem to have a decent thing going, although I found it interesting that Dallas decided to make a coaching change. Same with the Golden Knights. I guess you can make that argument as well. But, yeah, if you're in the Central Division, you have to like your chances of making the postseason. Maybe another team in the Pacific will sneak in there. And I think, just really quickly, Dino, to go back to the Pacific, I think the Seattle Kraken might actually be better than San Jose and Anaheim this year. They have a little bit more balance, it seems like. And you don't look at that roster and go, boy, that guy's a superstar, that guy's a superstar. But you go through it and you're like, that's a good team. There's good NHL players on all 4 lines and all 3 deep pairings. The goaltending, maybe a little suspect, but I think the Kraken are going to surprise a few people, not to the point where they're pushing for a playoff spot. But yeah, you're right. The Central Division, probably it's going to have 4, maybe all 5 or 5 teams cracking the postseason. But I think a team like Vegas and might have a say about that from the Pacific side of things.
Well, to your Seattle point, they certainly played a much more button-down defensive style, and you're building down the middle. You're going to have who's the Shane Wright, and Matty Beniers.
Yep.
So you've got real strength down the middle. You've got some veterans there. So actually, I like that. I like Seattle surpassing San Jose. Maybe, and Anaheim is kind of on the rise, but still not there yet. When you look at Vegas, the reason they made that coaching change, I fully think, is because they looked at their goaltending situation and said, Robin Lehner is going to be out for the year. We need a defensively minded coach, and that's what Bruce Cassidy was. So they bring him in, and look at last night. They allowed 7 shots in the third period. They gave out 30 in total, but they put 51 on net, and only 7 in the third period to win the game. That's what Bruce Cassidy is going to do. Logan Thompson, Laurent Brossoit, whoever is going to be there is going to get help from the system. And that I look at Seattle and Vegas. Their improvements will be from the back end, in my opinion. Yeah.
Dino, ironically enough, it was LA's system that kind of vaulted them into where they got to last season as well. Right. So maybe, stealing a page from their book, Bruce Cassidy is. And let's see how it goes with the Golden Knights. I mean, a bit of a fall from grace from last season, but they do have a few pieces that you look at and you go, geez, that's a hell of a player. You could start with Eichel. You could go to Mark Stone. You look at the back end with Alec Martinez and Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore, like all of the elements are there. And even the secondary scorers, Marchessault coming off a 30-goal season. We've seen William Karlsson, light it up offensively, albeit a few years ago. But like there are nice pieces there. Riley Smith is another one that this Golden Knights team, in theory, should be good. But you alluded to it. If the goaltending isn't there to make the saves, if it's 7 in a period in the third, or if they get caved in because another team's, I don't know, taking advantage of them, or they let in some bad goals, because you can overcome bad goaltending. And I think it's fair to say we saw it here in Edmonton for a few years where people looked at the tandem of Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith and would say, that's the 30th, 31st, 32nd ranked goaltending tandem. And they made the postseason 3 years in a row going to a conference final. So there is a precedent there, absolutely. And whichever goalie between Brossoit, Thompson, and even Aiden Hill, who's in the mix now, takes the bull by the horns and runs with it, then maybe they could put something together and even climb up into that top 3 in the Pacific if another team falters.
So let's talk a little bit about the Oilers. Home opener tonight against the Canucks, who we just talked about. I look at this like, what a start to the schedule. I mean, just handed to them on a platter. And you worked with this team on enough seasons where you guys had bizarre starts, or you start out east. I mean, the 6 home games, the 6 homestand right to start the year is excellent. And I think 9 of 12 or something. It's a really good start to the season. And you talked about goaltending. I think Jack Campbell has a chance to be a top 10 goaltender this year because he's going to get a lot of wins. Like I was looking at it through the schedule. I think the Oilers can win 51 games this year. I think that's a target. And I think Campbell, like a Darcy Kemper in Colorado, can be a top 10 goaltender based on the team. Do you look at, obviously it's the biggest change in the offseason, but maybe somebody that people aren't thinking about on the Edmonton Oilers right now. It could be Jack Campbell, but everybody talks about Draisaitl, McDavid, and all those guys. Who is somebody that maybe didn't get enough credit, or you're looking at maybe having a bigger year than some people are projecting on this Edmonton Oilers team?
Yeah, for like a dark horse or a sleeper pick guy to watch, I mean, I think it would be easy to say Evan Bouchard because of the type of year he had, but he kind of flies under the radar and falls down the wayside when it comes to the pecking order for this group. So it's his sophomore year. He's interesting because, Dino, like, is he going to follow up last year, which was his first true full National Hockey League season, with an even better year? Or will he have the quote-unquote sophomore jinx and take a step back? And we'll see, because he's going to start with Ryan Murray in the third pairing, and I think that's the Oilers kind of easing him back into the year and not putting too much on his plate right out of the gates, and putting a guy like Tyson Barrie into that second pairing with Brett Kulak. And listen, Jay Woodcroft, Dave Manson, if they see something that's not working, they're pretty quick to switch it up. So this might only be a couple games thing, or might be a thing that extends into a couple months. So it's up to the player to dictate that. And then another guy to really keep an eye on that I think will quietly responsibly put together a good season is Ryan McLeod. There's a lot of intrigue there because, people see his speed, his ability to transport the puck, especially through the neutral zone. He's going to get penalty kill time. He takes face-offs. Him and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins are going to split face-off duties on that third line with Warren Foegele, at least to start out the season. And I think he's a guy who could solidify himself as a really good third-line player that gives you a little bit of offensive punch when you need it in a game where maybe McDavid and Draisaitl aren't giving you what you need, and you need a big goal at a timely point in the game. And Ryan McLeod could be a guy who elevates to that type of player that just at the right moment he could take advantage because he's skilled enough, he's got the hockey IQ, and maybe he feels comfortable enough in his position on the team as a guy that's not necessarily counted on to contribute all the heavy points, that he could chip in with a few and put together a really nice year.
What do you think about you've been a part of this Oilers team, and they used to have a really cool show, Oil Change. What do you think of Oilers Plus that's coming out? I love any kind of behind the scenes access. I think it's great. I thought NFL Films was the king of that, taking us down on the field in the very beginning. So I love any kind of behind the scenes stuff. You got to live behind the scenes with the Oilers. But what do you think of Oilers Plus, and what do you think it'll be like for Oiler fans? Do you think it'll be like Oil Change?
I do think it'll be like Oil Change. Obviously, it's going to be guarded the same way Oil Change was in terms of what information you get. Now, where I think it will give you more access to is like the true behind the scenes day to day, not necessarily like the drama or the chatter or the issues that the team are dealing with. But if you want to see like what it's like day to day in and around the team, not on the types of interviews that we would do in media and in the locker room and stuff like that, that's where I think that these guys are going to have their advantage, and you could just get a little taste and get an idea of the way the room works and all of that. But they're not going to necessarily take you into those deep diving conversations like an Oil Change used to do and all the other documentaries and series that we've watched over the years, because I think people, I don't know, it feels like people are kind of over that type of show, but they still want to see and get a glimpse of what it's like. And that's where I think this Oilers Plus and the drop, as they're calling it, will give you a sense of like, what's it like in the room right after a win, and like, what are the hallways like, who's high-fiving who. And I think you'll see more of those types of sequences where the camera follows a certain guy. And that's my sense of it, at least watching the guys doing the behind the scenes shooting for this. And plus, Oil Change was a Don Metz, Mike Bealey production, and there was a certain style to it, which was fantastic, highly well regarded. And this is a different crew entirely. So I think you're going to see a different style from it as well.
Yeah, I remember my wife Trish worked with Dawn, so I remember the not that she was telling me what was left out, but it's just like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's not going to make it in because no team is going to air their dirty laundry in their own production. Yeah. But you're right, it is a really cool thing to give you like what is a road trip like? What do they do on the road? Like different things, or how do the equipment guys get it all done? And I think a lot of people don't know about the cooperation between the home and visiting teams when it comes to all that stuff. You might be bitter rivals between the Flames and the Oilers, but you work together when you get to the rink to get a lot of that stuff done. So I'm interested in all that stuff. I think it'll be really cool. You're not going to get Ryan Nugent-Hopkins standing up and complaining because he's on the third line. You're going to get kind of the fun, fluffy stuff, which is interesting that Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is on the third line. I'd like to stand up and complain because I don't really like it, but you got the two biggest stories out of training camp, Jesse Puljujarvi and Dylan Holloway, and they both make the top 6 according to the line rushes today. And this is without Kyler Yamamoto, so that throws a wrench into things whenever that does happen. But your thoughts on these two guys, A, still being with the team, and where they are and playing with who they're playing with tonight?
Let's start with the lightning rod of controversy, Jesse Puljujarvi. I'm frankly surprised he's still on the roster, and I think it's more so tell to where the league is and what the actual ask for Jesse Puljujarvi is. Not a lot of teams are calling the Oilers about him. There's not a lot of interest for Jesse Puljujarvi. They don't regard him the same way as the heavy analytics-based crew and fans view and appreciate Jesse Puljujarvi. So there's only a handful of teams that called on him, and the offers weren't great. But I am still a little bit surprised he's here. Now, the fact that he's on the top line, I think it is just directly related to the fact that Kyler Yamamoto is a little bit nicked up. He might be good to go by Saturday, by the way. And so it's an opportunity for Jesse to either drive up his stock or just get his confidence back, contribute to the team, prove everyone he can be a bona fide top 6 NHLer. What a better opportunity. What better opportunity than this than to play with Evander Kane and Connor McDavid. So he may as well take advantage of it. As for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, he's still going to touch all elements of the game. He's going to be on power play 1. He's probably going to get all of his minutes 5-on-5. He has a good tandem with Zach Hyman on the PK. And so I think with him, it's more of the all-around game. His faceoffs still aren't particularly great. But I think when and if the Oilers are in a crunch for a goal or two, we'll still see Nugent-Hopkins get bumped up to, on the ice in the last couple of minutes of the game. He's still going to be around 18 to 20 minutes. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. Still kind of fluid with this lineup. And the fact that he's penciled in at the 3 center slot, I think he's okay with and won't make a big stink. But as you know, Dino, here in our market, there are people that look at that and can't get over the fact that he's in 3 center, and that shouldn't be the case for a guy making over $5 million a year.
Yeah. And, when you talk about face-offs, like if Ryan Nugent-Hopkins could get stronger at face-off with the minutes he plays, he would start getting some Selke talk, because he does play harder minutes, but it's the face-offs that probably hold him back. It's so interesting, and you mentioned kind of the market, and I look at on Twitter, and you've got 2 guys. They're both in the top 6 in Puljujarvi and Holloway, and there couldn't be a more different outlook from portions of the fan base on 2 guys. Like, one guy is the guy on the way up, the young guy. The other guy is on his way out. They're not that much different in age, really. In experience they are, but the outlook with the 2 guys is so vastly different. And it's wild, the paradox between them.
Very fair. But you look at their games, and they're different types of players. Like, Holloway skates well with the puck. He makes the little plays, not just in the offensive zone. He's not just creating havoc in the offensive zone the same way Jesse Puljujarvi is able to do with his big frame. But it's those little subtle plays that Holloway makes. It's confidence when transporting the puck. It's finding that open man in the offensive zone. He seems to have more confidence and a better knack at that than Jesse Puljujarvi. Jesse Puljujarvi's game can be somewhat haphazard at times. He goes to the right areas of the ice, and he puts himself into the right positions, either to screen a goalie, maybe get a deflection goal, or bang home some loose change. But there's times where he gets set up for a one-timer, and it goes through his legs. And unfortunately, we've seen that time and time again. And that's probably why there's that thought on the confidence level in a Puljujarvi compared to that in a Dylan Holloway, who you watch and you look at his game and you go, yeah, I can see what that guy's doing. He's putting together something pretty good there. Watch him go and rise. And then the other guy you look at and you go, geez, like he did 3 out of 4 things right, but it's that last thing he just totally messed up. And that's kind of what Jesse Puljujarvi's detriment has been over the last, I don't know, let's say 8 months, 9 months.
You know what it's like? It's like Ron Hextall used to give up 1 bad goal a game. He'd make a lot of great saves, but he would give up, and there's a lot of goalies that are like that. And sometimes that's all you focus on is, well, it was the bad goal. And, if it's the winning goal, for sure. But it is interesting. All right, just wrap up. What a day of baseball yesterday. They're in a rain delay right now, so we're not playing. And they're showing the replay of the Yordan Alvarez. I look at that home run was awesome, but the 2-out, 2-strike single by Jeremy Pena, that's a little bloop single to keep the drive alive. And that's what's so cool about baseball is that it changes. I mean, what was your favorite part about yesterday of everything that happened?
The walk-off's always exciting. If I said the suffering that the Mariners fans went through, Dino, would that be like too harsh? Because
No.
I mean, the glory of what they did to Toronto in Toronto after being down 8-1. I was watching that game, seeing the lead slowly evaporate, and the Mariners just start to take over, and then they get a dose of their own medicine on the walk-off. But you know what? I'm sure they'll bounce back. But I think that whole paradox and ironic kind of twist is the one you look at and you go, that's what's special about baseball in October is the magic that it creates. And good on the Dodgers against the Padres last night. The rain coming down late in the game. Like, I feel like that's going to be an interesting series to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, we'll see tonight. Like Kershaw going against the Padres tonight, he owns them. Like 45 appearances, 23-9, 310 strikeouts. But they hit lefties really well. Not last night, but they do. So I think that is going to. I'm a Dodgers fan, and they scare me a little bit just because they have Juan Soto, and that guy could just flip the switch at any point, and they do have some good pitching. But it'll be interesting when they get going today. National League today, American League tomorrow, and lots of hockey tonight, Tom. It'll be so fun to follow the season. Next time I see you, by the way, I've got some juicy GCs for you for Acme Meat Market in the Ritchie area. Best butcher shop in Edmonton. Let me tell you, I had some ribeyes from Corey Meyer the other day, and they were so good. We got our turkey from there. So I'm gonna, I want you to be able to eat. So I'm gonna give you gift cards for some beautiful steaks or whatever you want for joining the show with me all the time. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the game tonight.
Dino, always a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to that meat, buddy. I'm a carnivore through and through.
All right. Take care. There is Tom Gazzola. He'll have the pre- and the post-game show tonight on TSN 1260. Oilers, Canucks.